Timon of Athens was first printed in the 1623 collection of Shakespeare's plays, now known as the First Folio. The present edition is based directly upon that printing. For the convenience of the reader, we have modernized the punctuation and the spelling of the folio. Sometimes we go so far as to modernize certain old forms of words. For example, usually when what means he, we change it to he. We change mo to more and ye to you. But it is not our practice in editing any of the plays to modernize words that sound distinctly different from modern forms. For example, when the early printed texts read sith or apricox or porpentine, we have not modernized to since apricots, porcupine. When the forms an, and, or and if appear instead of the modern form if, we have reduced and to an, but have not changed any of these forms to their modern equivalent if. We also modernize and, where necessary, correct passages in foreign languages, unless an error in the early printed text can be reasonably explained as a joke. Whenever we change the wording of the first folio or add anything to its stage directions, we mark the change by enclosing it in superior half brackets. We want our readers to be immediately aware when we have intervened. Only when we correct an obvious typographical error in the first folio does the change not get marked. Whenever we change either the first folio's wording or its punctuation so that meaning changes, we list the change in the textual notes at the back of the book, even if all we have done is fix an obvious error. We regularize spellings of a number of the proper names, and is the usual practice in editions of the play. For example, the folio, sometimes called Apermantus, and sometimes called Ventidius, or Ventigius, but we use the spellings Apermantus and Ventidius throughout the text. This edition differs from many earlier ones in its efforts to aid the reader in imagining the play as a performance rather than as a series of actual events. Thus, we as editors refrain from adding stage directions calling for action that is unlikely to have been performed or unlikely to be performed today on stage. No matter how helpful such stage directions may be to the reader in imagining the events that constitute the plot of the play, for example, when the anonymous soldier finds Timon's epitaphs in 5.3 and unable to read one of them resolves the character to take with wax, some editors choose to help their readers visualize the soldier's intention by adding the stage direction. He makes a wax impression. Since it is unlikely that in performance an actor would actually do such a thing on stage, we have not added this direction or others of its kind. Nevertheless, whenever it is reasonably certain in our view that a speech is accompanied by a particular action, we provide a stage direction describing the action, setting the added direction in brackets to signal that it is not found in the folio. Occasional exceptions to this rule occur when the action is so obvious that to add a stage direction would insult the reader. Stage directions for the entrance of a character in mid-scene are, with rare exceptions, placed so that they immediately precede the character's participation in the scene, even though these entrances may appear somewhat earlier in this early printed text. Whenever we move a stage direction, we record this change in the textual notes. Latin stage directions, e.g. exeunt, are translated into English, e.g. they exit. We expand the often severely abbreviated forms of names used as speech headings in early printed texts into the full names of the characters. We also regularize the speaker's names in speech headings, using only a single designation for each character, even though the early printed texts sometimes use a variety of designations. Variations in the speech headings of the early printed texts are recorded in the textual notes. In the present edition as well, we mark with a dash any change of address within a speech unless a stage direction intervenes, when the ed ending of a word is to be pronounced. We mark it with an accent. Like editors for the past 2 centuries, we print metrically linked lines in the following way. Painter. It wears, sir, as it grows. Poet. Aye, that's well known. 1-1-4-5. However, when there are a number of short verse lines that can be linked in more than one way, we do not, with rare exceptions, indent any of them.